I was only 10 years old when my parents divorced. At the time, I didn't know why they were divorcing. I just knew that my mom was insanely mad at my dad. Later, I learned she caught him cheating on her with his secretary. My mom threw my dad out one night and said, "Here, your bags are packed. This is my house now." And she was right. She ended up keeping the house in the divorce settlement. My dad had to couch hop for a few weeks, but he soon moved into a 2-bedroom rental house, and I was suddenly passed back and forth between the two houses. Thankfully, I didn't have those parents who used me as a pawn or talked bad about each other when I was present. I felt the tension for the first few months, of course. It wasn't an easy situation. Dad's new house was on a dead end in a suburb that happened to be on the same street as my best friend. So it wasn't all bad. At least I finally got to live next to my best friend, something I'd always dreamed of. The house itself wasn't bad. My parents made decent money. He was a lawyer and she was a teacher. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway on the left, furthest from the living room and front door. Dad's was the first door on the right. The first few nights I stayed there, we fell asleep in the living room watching movies, because we were waiting on our beds to be delivered. I didn't mind. I was only 10, so it was like a sleepover. We ordered pizza and Chinese and stayed up later than I normally would be allowed. The first night I was in my room alone, I lay there awake for an extra hour or so longer than I typically would, just because it was a new environment, which can be unsettling for kids of any age. I was finally asleep, not sure how long, when I heard a knock on my door. "Come in, Dad," I said, figuring he probably went to make sure I actually was going to sleep and not playing games. But Dad didn't come in. I was so sleepy, I fell back asleep almost immediately. At breakfast, I asked Dad why he didn't open my door last night when I told him to come in. "I didn't knock on your door, Sam. I trust you to go to sleep when you're told. You're getting old enough now, son." "Weird, I swear, someone knocked on my door last night," I said. "You must have been dreaming, kid," Dad replied. Later, after school, I headed straight to my room to start the science project that was due in a few days. I had one of those gravity toys on my homework desk in my room. The one that you pull the string and ball an inch or two and let it go, and it makes the other one on the other end move back and forth too. While I was sitting and drafting an outline for the project, the toy started moving back and forth on its own. I was freaked out again. I was only 10, so I had no idea what was going on. Of course, I had heard of ghosts, but only through friends telling fake ghost stories at Boy Scout camp. "Dad," I yelled. He came in about 2 minutes later. "What is it, Sam?" "The toy on my desk, it's moving by itself," I said. "It's actually gravity and motion moving it, Sam. Remember? I explained that when we unboxed it." "No, Dad, I mean I didn't touch it at all, and it started moving on its own, I swear." "You have an active imagination, kid," Dad chuckled. "Now go wash up for dinner. I made mac and cheese." Feeling defeated, I turned to look at the toy once again, and was surprised to see it had stopped. We ate dinner and watched wrestling before it was time for me to shower and go to bed. I grabbed my navy blue pajamas with sailboats on them and showered before hopping into bed. I remember even those smallest details from that night, because it was the scariest thing I'd been through to that point, and it's still probably the scariest thing I've witnessed to this day. I laid in bed and had half hour to play games on my tablet before I had to shut my lights off. As I was playing my favorite game, the tablet shut off, even though I knew the battery wasn't dead. It was on the charger the entire evening. I couldn't get it to turn back on, so I turned off my light and laid down. I was about asleep when there was a noise in my closet. I jumped and, against my better judgment, walked towards the door and pulled it open. A box of baseball cards fell off the top shelf and nearly smacked me in the head before hitting the ground. "Sam, what's going on in here?" Dad said, turning on the light. I heard a noise in my closet, so I opened it and a box of cards came flying at me, I stammered. Okay, well, let's get this cleaned up. It's time for bed, he said. We got the cards cleaned up and Dad stuck around until I climbed under my blankets. He shut the light off and said, "Good night, kiddo. No more horsing around in here, okay? Love ya." I knew he meant well, but I was just wishing he would believe me about the toy moving on its own and the box being thrown at me, I thought as I drifted off to sleep. Sometime later, I was woken by an ice-cold feeling on my arm. It felt like someone had laid an ice pack on my bare skin, but nothing was there. Suddenly, I saw the bed being pushed down, as if someone, likely an adult with how big of an indent, was sitting on my bed beside me. I was so scared, I screamed out. My dad came running in. "Sam, I thought it was Sam, are you okay? You're shaking." It took my dad probably half an hour to get me to calm down. He finally believed something was happening because I was shaking so hard and looked so pale. He thought I was going to pass out. After a while, I was finally able to tell him what happened, and I made him promise me I didn't have to sleep in my room anymore before I would even consider calming down and going to sleep on the couch that night. My dad promised to have the house cleansed and explained what that meant, since I had no idea what it did mean. I still don't know to this day if he actually believed me, or if he called someone in to cleanse the house so that I would sleep in my bed again. But the cleansing worked. That must have been traumatizing at 10. Even as an adult, I would freak out if a ghost sat down next to me. I can't imagine experiencing that as a kid. I'm glad your dad at least got a cleansing, whether he believed you or not. Thanks so much for sharing your story. If you have a paranormal story to share for an upcoming video, email it to the address in the description below, or drop it in the comments if you'd like. Please like, share, and subscribe. We need all the engagement we can get, so we can one day get out onto the big YouTube streets. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.